Chapter 16. The trotro I took broke down after Dawa. It took more than 2 hours for the driver and his mates to fix it. It broke down again after Tripoli. This time, there was nothing they could do about it. The mates joined another trotro to Tripoli and came back with an empty trotro. We got stuck in traffic at the Tema roundabout and again at the Tetekwashi interchange. By the time we got to Tudu, it was past 7 p.m. I checked into the first guest house I saw. It was a seedy motel. The rooms had purple lights. There was no running water, and the bed bug infested mattress and pillow reeked of stale sweat and saliva. Mrs. Hammond would have had a fit. I lay on the floor and waited for sleep to come. I missed my home. I missed my own bed. I missed the sound of the ocean which lulled me to sleep each night. But most of all, I missed Pope, Nene, and Manche. The next morning, I was off to Kaswa at the crack of dawn, but again I got caught in traffic at the Malam Junction. When I finally got to Kaswa, I spent 3 hours looking for the right street. Google Maps was not much help, probably because most of the streets had not been named. My search led me to a brown and cream painted house with a hedge of cotton bushes around the walls. The wind chased fallen Indian almond leaves across the lawn. Across the street was a wooden provision store. I greeted the woman in the store and turned my attention back to the house. This was it. This was my mother's house. My mother. My real mother. Would she be here? Would she even recognize me? Would she just know? Would my belly button twitch? Would it tingle? Would there be some sort of signal to me to let me know she was the one who had been on the other end of the umbilical cord? Would she feel the connection? I lingered in front of the gate and looked through the spaces in the gate. There was a tricycle and a black rag doll lying on the lawn. My throat constricted. She had a daughter. Why hadn't she wanted me? I knew 15 was too young to be a mother, but why hadn't she searched for me when she was older? Did she care what had happened to me? This was turning out to be more difficult than I imagined. I had to decide quickly whether I was going to ring the bell or not. Already the woman in the kiosk across the street was looking at me suspiciously. She came out with her baby strapped to her back and pretended to straighten some black polythene bags that had been pegged to the door of the kiosk. I pressed the doorbell. I heard a ring inside. The woman in the kiosk had stopped pretending to straighten the bags and was openly staring at me. The woman who came to the gate looked stressed and was heavily pregnant with another of my step-siblings. Once she opened it, I heard 2 children screaming from inside the house. She looked far younger than Mama, than Asi. If she had me at 15, then she was now 31 years old. She was in an Asasawa dress. She was big-boned and had white hips like me, but she was lighter skinned. My dark color had to have come from my biological father. I opened my mouth, but no words came. From somewhere inside the house, there was another scream. Then the front door opened and a young girl stepped out. She looked to be about 5. She was in a tie-and-dye dress with her hair cornrowed into a ponytail. Assorted colored beads were attached to the ends of each plait. She was holding the side of her upper arm with one hand. "Mommy, Junior has beat me again." As soon as she said the words, her lips trembled and a wail emerged from somewhere deep inside her. Tears flowed freely down her face and mucus ran out of her nose. She sniffed the mucus back. My biological mother turned and screamed in the direction of the house, where a toddler stood by the door. He was only in diapers and a singlet. Excuse me. He held a banku paddle in his hand. "Junior, stop beating Mommy and go and put the bankuta down. Make sure you pick your toys up from the floor before I get there." The little girl ran back to the house. Junior followed her in. I couldn't believe she let a toddler beat her. I'd expected Junior to be older. I looked at my biological mother and wondered if she thought about me sometimes. I wondered why she never I wondered why she had never bothered to search for me. I wondered if my real father even knew he had fathered me. I wondered if he would even care, if it would make a difference to him. I wondered if her husband knew about me. If he didn't, what would that do to their marriage once he found out? Certainly, I wasn't so sure I wanted to know the answers to all my questions. What if it turned out that she still didn't want me? I was already feeling so low that I didn't think I could handle any more rejection. How may I help you? I shook my head. There had been no instant recognition on her part, no twitch or tingle in her womb to tell her I was her daughter. Tears welled in my eyes. I backed out of the gate. Young lady, come back! What? I heard a crash, and then the little girl came running out of the house. Mommy! Junior has broke the TV! I could tell my biological mother was torn between coming after me and going to see what her son had done. She stepped out of the gate and just stared at me. The woman from the kiosk was staring at us. My biological mother reached out for my hand. She pulled me in and shut the gate. Once we were inside the compound, she let go of my hand. She led me inside the house. The flat screen TV had indeed been broken. Kids' toys were strewn all over the place. Junior was nowhere in sight. She offered me a seat. I sat down on the sofa. She sat on one end of the single chairs far from me. Mommy, go and play in your room, she ordered. But it was Junior who broke. Mommy, her mother warned. The little girl did as she was told. You're the Papa-Norr's daughter, aren't you? And just like that, I began crying again. She made no move to comfort me. They promised they wouldn't tell you. I told them I didn't want to have any contacts. But don't you wonder? Don't you sometimes think? Look, I made a mistake and I've worked hard to correct it. I've done my penance. I wasn't ready to have a child. I was just a child myself. The words seared themselves into my heart. A mistake. She could sleep at night because she had done her penance. She shook her head when she realized what she had said, but she didn't apologize. What makes them better than me? I asked, nodding towards Junior and Mommy, who had appeared near a door leading away from the living room. She got up and shut the door. Look, I was only 15. I didn't even love your father. And he didn't want anything to do with me when he found out I was pregnant. What was I to do? The Papa-Norrs looked like nice people. They could have given you all the things I couldn't have. And I'm sure they have. They gave you a better chance at life than I would have. And I'm not sorry for that. I know you might think I'm heartless and cruel, but I did what was best for you. My dad was a fisherman, my mom a fishmonger. They already had 7 kids. What were they going to do with an extra mouth to feed? I continued crying, though I wanted very much to stop. We sat in silence for about 5 minutes. What do you want me to do now? Why did you come here? What were you expecting? She asked. I had no reply to that. It was obvious I wasn't welcome in her life. My husband will get home soon. He doesn't know about you. She was sacking me. Go back to your parents and pretend all this never happened. As he died, almost 3 years ago. She covered her mouth with her hand. I'm sorry. And she did look sorry. How about Mr. Popolampo? Is he alive? I nodded. The relief on her face was immediate. I wasn't her problem. She walked me to the door. She didn't even walk me to the gate. She was probably in a hurry to get back to her perfect life and her perfect children who were not mistakes. I took a taxi to the Kwabenya estates where Aseye lived. Sorry. I was so numb that all I wanted to do was sleep. Her neighborhood was still largely in the process of being built. Construction work was going on many plots of land. It would look nice when it was finished, but for now it wasn't where I'd want to live. I wondered how Aseye survived. Her house itself was not fully constructed, but the family had had no choice but to move into the partially constructed house instead of renting accommodation somewhere else. There were 2 heaps of sand and 1 of gravel in front of the house. There was no gate. Cement blocks had been arranged beneath a neem tree. Masons were mixing cement and laying blocks on one of the neighboring plots. Carpenters were busy on a 3rd plot. There was dust everywhere. Mr. Wasunu was not at home. Mr. Wasunu was at home, sorry. He met me at the door. Mr. Wasunu was an older version of Asei. No one had to tell you they were related. He was fully dressed in a long sleeve shirt, black trousers and shoes that were so black and shiny that I could see my reflection in them. He was all dressed up with nowhere to go. I felt sorry for him, but not as sorry as for myself. There was a man out there who was the male version of me, but to him as well, I was a mistake. Hi, Bueki. We didn't know you were coming. I said you just went to buy prepaid credit. Can I wait for her? Sure, she would love to see you. She keeps complaining that there's nothing to do here. I didn't blame her, saying I wondered how she could stand all the noise from the construction work. Why don't you wait in her room? We haven't unpacked our furniture yet. Are you okay? Mr. Watson asked after taking a second look at me. Allergies, I said as I followed him through the living room to Asaye's room. The living room had been converted into a storage room. Boxes, trunks, books, just about everything had been dumped there. Asaye's room had been painted cream. Her room was not finished either, but a wardrobe with a dresser in the middle stood by one wall. Her trunk and chopbox stood in a corner of the room and her mattress was on the floor. In another corner on top of a wooden table was an open suitcase. Aseye was packing for school. I dropped my bag and lay down on the mattress. I had spent many holidays with Aseye when we both lived at Roman Ridge. I knew her parents wouldn't mind if I asked to stay with them for a while. After C died, Mrs. Wosono had asked Pope to let me stay with them for some time, but Pope had declined the offer. He had said Nene needed me. I think what he had meant was he himself needed me. I think he had wanted us all to be together. Now, with me out of the way, he and Nadu could have the family they deserved. Asaye's slam book was by the side of her mattress. Almost everyone had written boys sabre or girls sabre as their favorite saying. I had filled the first page. The first page was always filled by the owner's BFF. I read through what people had written and laughed. Had it just been 5 months since we finished school? I felt a punk. I would miss Aseye. I'd always thought we'd be in the same university together. We had even agreed to share the room in a hostel. We had had plans. I'd be the one who drove us to lectures when I got my license at 18, and Aseye would be the one who cooked our food. Now she, Sedem, Jennifer, and even Lamisi would be in the same school. I closed the slam book and dropped it back to the floor. I went to her suitcase. Aseye had done some serious shopping. Some of the clothes were new, the others looked like store rejects or first selections from the first line. The clothes helped to take my mind off what had just happened with my biological mother. Even though she had already folded them and put them away, I rummaged through them. I knew she would love trying them on for me to see. There was a multicolored block dress that I liked that still had a tag on it. I'd ask her where she got it so I could get one in a larger size. I loved an oversized black blouse which had sequins around the neck. Would look really good with a pair of skinny jeans. On any other day I'd have been tempted to try it on, but I just didn't feel like it. I was about to pick a pink shirt when a dash of black ribbon caught my eye. I pulled it out. For a minute I was stumped. Had I given it to her? If I had, why had I searched for it like a mad woman in the washroom? In my hand was my button bib necklace, the same one that had gone back to search for at the washroom of the Accra Mall. I dumped all the contents of her suitcase onto the bed. I didn't find anything else that belonged to me. Maybe I'd made a mistake. Maybe I'd accidentally gotten mixed up with her things that night. But if it had, why hadn't she called and told me? Why was it in a suitcase of clothes she was sending to the university campus? I dropped the bib on the bed and went back to her dresser. The Danish cookie container in which she kept her jewelry was right on top. I opened it and sure enough, lying next to a string of fake pearls was my watch. I mean Mama, Asi's watch, with the rhinestones. Lamisi had been right all along. I had accused her falsely. I sat on the mattress with my watch and bib in my hand. My friend was a thief. My best friend was a thief. A thief and a liar and a pretender. And though I didn't want to judge, I had to add that she was a prostitute too. I must have sat there for over an hour before Say started shouting my name. She walked in with a happy smile on her face. She was in another long maxi dress. Bueki, what a surprise! She stopped when she saw what I held in my hands. I borrowed the watch. I was going to return it, but then you said Lamisi took it, and then Mrs. Nunu got involved, and it became such a big issue that I didn't know what to do. I was thinking, you're my best friend. You could have told me there were a million and one opportunities for you to put it back into my trunk, on my bed, or something. Instead, I held up the baby and asked, and this? She looked at me, averted her gaze, looked back, and said, I bought it. I laughed more out of surprise than anything. She lacked innovation and creativity. I was younger than her, but I wasn't stupid. Was that all she could come up with? I turned the bib around to the place where the button had come out. The safety pin I had used to hold the loose button in place was still there. And I'm sure when this same button came out, you used the safety pin to hold it in place. I didn't say a word. I didn't have to speak after that. I put my watch and bib into my bag and walked past her and out of her room. I was out of the house and out of the street before I remembered I hadn't said goodbye to Mr. Osunu. My head hurt, really hurt. It felt like it had been caught in a clump or like someone was stabbing me with 1,000 knives. My friend, my best friend, a thief. Could this day get any worse? I went back to the guest house, and again I was forced to spend the night on the floor. My money had disappeared. All I had was the change from what I had used for the fare to Asayes. The manager denied any wrongdoing. He pointed to a laminated paper on the wall. The notice, which had been printed on a sheet of A4 paper, said clients were responsible for the safety of their belongings. A second laminated notice said no valuable items were to be left in the room. I was sure he had taken the money, but I didn't trust my gut anymore, so I let it go. It was a good thing I was too sad to eat. I'd saved some money by skipping supper.